Welcome to episode 183 of Timm Talk, the podcast about the DC animated universe, co-created by Bruce Timm. I'm Chris Lord.
I'm Cameron Dexter.
And we're back this week with, unsurprisingly, some more Justice League.
Yes, we are.
The only two remaining episods of the season that I didn't really remember for the most part, because I pretty much remember everything else that's about to come next. So we're talking Secret Society.
Which is surprising because these are good episodes. I really enjoyed these, minus one big caveat. Two-ish big caveats. They're both connected to the same
Three
thing.
big caveats.
My real problem is with Superman this episode. Superman is a dick, and he's a problem to the team.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I think the reason these kind of disappeared in the background of my memory is that pretty much everything that happens after this is very memorable.
Yeah.
I won't say what, because I don't think you really know what's coming up until Starcrossed.
Starcrossed? One thing you've never stopped talking about?
Even before Starcrossed.
It's been spoiled for me many times over at this point.
Even before Starcrossed, like the next two-parters, the one single-parter, are all very memorable for distinct reasons. And I won't say why they're memorable.
I mean, maybe once I start them, something will trigger in my memory.
Okay.
But no, from what I understand, this episode won't have any like long-term repercussions. When I feel like it
really
should.
I mean, it introduces a lot more of the Rogues Gallery.
That's true, and they will pop up in JLU.
Yeah, a lot of them are gonna pop up a lot in JLU.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, yeah, it's not a big universe-changing episode, really.
Yeah,
and there's
which again, I feel like it should be.
I mean, kind of. What I found interesting about these two is, and we'll get into why, but to me, it kind of reminded me of the third season of BTOS, when it would take an established villain, or in this case, it's like the established idea of an anti-Justice League, and does something different with them.
Yes.
And I liked that. I liked they did something a little bit different. It's not just the Injustice gag once again. It's
right. Yeah, and it's also, you know, as I always love to bring up, the non-DCAU Young Justice. This is another storyline that we had in Young Justice, especially the concept of like, who is the leader of the Justice League? You need someone to take charge every now and then.
Yeah.
And they had that whole like 3-episode subplot in Young Justice of like Robin wants to lead, but he's 12 and he can't because he's 12.
But he has that.
Flash can't because he's a child at heart, even though he's, you know, slightly older. Miss Martian can't because she's new to Earth and doesn't understand the rules. Superboy can't because he's 6 months old. So I guess it has to be Aqualad because Speedy's being, you know, an overdramatic teenager.
Okay, but
he's also a clone. Spoilers.
Also, Aqualad is actually like a genuinely good leader.
He is, yeah, but he didn't want to lead.
Which is what you should want out of your leaders.
Exactly. And that was the whole point of the episode.
Yes.
That had repercussions for the rest of season 1.
Yeah, whereas in Justice League, I don't think anyone wants to be the leader, really.
No.
And because also everyone knows that Batman just runs the show.
Yeah, everyone knows it's going to be Batman, but no one wants to admit that it's Batman.
Well, and he doesn't actually declare himself as the leader. He just orchestrates things in the background all the time.
There was this is a slight tangent, but it's also kind of interesting, and I think it's important for people who are working from home right now. Someone talked about creating an influence chart for your office to see who like truly holds power in conversation.
Okay.
And you basically, when you're in a meeting, you make kind of like circles for every person that's on the call or in the room, and you direct arrows for like if Carol is talking to Monica, that's an arrow to Monica. And so you can see, you do that with every person that talks directly to someone else.
Okay.
And so you can see exactly who is trying to be heard because they'll have the most arrows out.
Yeah.
And who has the most influence because they'll have the most arrows in. And I just find that really fascinating.
No, it is an interesting idea, and it works because if you think about the Justice League, Batman would have all the arrows in. And
not a single one out.
And maybe one out.
Yeah.
And even then it's like, he glared? I think we count that?
Yeah, he glared at Flash? Yeah. I think that was a Flash.
I think that counts. But yeah, he's clearly the leader. Just no one wants to admit that he's the leader.
Yeah.
Because he also just doesn't give a fuck for the most part.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, these were interesting episodes. I'm glad you liked them.
I did.
Yeah.
Minus the two glaring problems.
Well, we'll get into those glaring problems. So why don't we go ahead and kick things off here with a quick summary of what's going on. And so in this episode, after Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter fail to capture Shade, GL decides the Justice League needs to practice working as a team. Meanwhile, Shade is recruited by Gorilla Grodd to join his new team of villains, the Secret Society. And that's kind of mostly the setup here of this first episode. These two stories are mostly kind of running in parallel up until they all get together at the very end.
Right, which is what we always loved about BTOS. I
Yeah.
know I said I'm not going to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you.
You made it so far.
Yeah, it is a story for at least part one of them. The villains have nothing to do with the heroes.
Yeah.
And that is the best kind of villain story, is the heroes trying to figure out what the problem is and trying to intercept it on its way towards goal.
Well, let's start out by talking about
It's a great football analogy that will lead into part
I missed
two.
it entirely. Sports? Let's start out by talking the Secret Society. Because I think the plot thread of the team figuring out how to work together as a team will kind of segue better into the finale. So let's talk about what the Secret Society is up to here. Starting with the different members. This is an interesting collection of people they brought together here. It's almost a hero for villain one-to-one situation happening. Or at least there are some villains brought in here that are clearly designed to be specific antagonists for certain heroes.
Right.
So we have Giganta in her first appearance, who is a Wonder Woman villain, who I guess this version of Giganta is supposed to be a lot different than the ones from the comics or even for like the Super Friends show back in the day.
Yes.
I don't really know much about her, but
Neither do I.
In the cursory research that I did for this podcast, apparently Giganta in the comics and in the old superhero TV shows is a little bit more, for lack of a better word, like gruff and masculine, whereas here they played her much more kind of feminine and girly. And I actually think it's kind of a nice contrast. Like a character, usually if you have a really, in this case, tall, but even when she's like normal height for her, she's still much taller than anyone around her. Oftentimes you have that kind of character, they're just automatically labeled as very, very masculine. It was kind of a nice contrast for her to be actually very feminine and fun and flirty.
Yeah, well, that's the Starfire thing in the comics, at least. Starfire is tall.
Yeah.
Starfire is like, she's always taller than Nightwing. I would think she's like 6'4" or something like that.
Yeah.
But also, they kind of had to contrast her from Killer Frost because they made her incredibly masculine as a female character.
Same voice actor, too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. And you wouldn't guess that I wouldn't have assumed that unless I read it, because it is a very different take. But yeah, Killer Frost, by contrast, has played very tough.
Yeah.
And masculine.
Yeah, very hot topic. Because I don't want to call her masculine because she's not like bulging with muscle, or she's not.
No, that's true. Like, yeah, that's a good point.
She's not playing into the masculine trope. She's kind of just like a goth character.
Yeah. You're right. It's very hot topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get Giganta in her first appearance. We get the return of Sinestro, which must have made you excited.
Always excited. Because that was the first one you see after Shade.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Sinestro. Oh, man. It's a Green Lantern story, but it's not, but it kind of is.
Because I forgot that he had such a long absence. Because the last time we saw him, I think, was the Superman episode in Brightest Day with Kyle Rayner, right?
Okay, yeah. I was trying to remember because he was in Static.
That's true. He did pop up.
That would have not happened yet.
I forget. I mean, it's roughly around the same time.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, pretty close. But I suppose that's true. I guess that was the last time we saw him. I keep forgetting sometimes because, I don't know. I know it's all canon, but sometimes the static appearances from like other DC characters feel a little, I don't want to say unofficial, but they are less concerned with an ongoing continuity, I would say. They're more just kind of thrown in for the fun of it. It's kind of
in a parallel world.
Yeah, exactly. Of sorts. So, but you're right. I had forgotten about that. He pops up there. But yeah, I mean, it had been generally a pretty long time since we had seen him.
4 months after this.
4 months after this. Okay. Episode, yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, I guess, yeah. So this was his first appearance in years since Superman the Animated Series. And I do love Sinestro. And like so many characters, I first discovered them because of this show.
Yeah.
And so this is my original love for Sinestro comes from this. Plus, the great Ted Levine's doing the voice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, he only gets cooler in every iteration you see.
Yeah.
Like, Sinestro is just always a cool character.
Did it also bring you joy that he actually makes constructs?
Yes, it did. They're so good.
And did you notice that because of that, GL actually had to make some constructs of his own?
He did. He made a lot more bendy walls instead of straight walls.
Look, he made some bendy walls. He made a shield.
Yeah.
He made
which is just kind of a wall.
It's kind of a wall, but it's a stylized wall.
Yeah, it's a shaped wall.
He made a decoy.
He did. We have seen him do that before, though.
When did he do that before?
maybe I'm thinking
are,
of
are you thinking of a comic?
the Green Lantern series that I've been watching.
Fair enough. At the end of the day, like the reason
That is from the series. That's from the opening episode of the series.
I think it's fair to say too, like the reason we keep forgetting these things is one, as we say all the time, once we're done recording an episode, we forget everything we have seen or talked about.
Brain flush.
Yeah. Also, we've been doing this now for over 4 years. Also, we still consume so much other non-DCAU DC content that it's constantly getting mixed up together.
Yes.
So, which is why we're constantly relying on our dear friends over at the Watchtower database to correct us, as I'm sure they will now. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the first time in the DCAU GL makes
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
a decoy. But that's the most construct he's made so far, right? It actually had like lines and details and did things.
It was cool. It's such a good strategy too.
Yeah. Now, to your point though, one could say that if a shield is just a stylized wall, this decoy was just a stylized beam.
Yeah.
Basically. It didn't really do anything. It was basically more or less just a static fixture flying off into the distance.
But it was strategy, and that is my biggest problem with this episode. I'll let you finish your part before I give the deep dive into my problems.
All right. Well, at least we had some Sinestro to bring you some, ring construct joy. And obviously, he is infamously a Green Lantern villain. We have Parasite reteaming. Not reteaming, but going up against Superman once again. Mm-hmm. Another character we haven't seen since Superman the Animated Series.
Right.
So fun to see him return. And then Gorilla Grodd, who's orchestrating all this, and Shade are both Flash villains. I was always in the impression that Killer Frost was a Flash villain, I think because of the CW show.
Yeah, same.
Apparently, Killer Frost is usually considered a Firestorm villain.
That's right, yeah. And also, I think Young Justice has shaped a little bit because we see all the Frost villains together.
That's true.
And you kind of just think all of them are for Flash now.
Well, they actually would work well to stop the Flash. They just lay down some ice and he can't run. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so there's... who's the main one that we
Captain
always see?
Cold.
Captain Cold, thank you. Captain Cold, Icicle Jr.,
Killer Frost,
Mr. Freeze, which is obviously Batman.
Yeah.
And I think there's even more than that, but those are 4 already listed that are mostly Flash villains.
Exactly. And there are 3 different Killer Frosts.
Yeah.
Too. And I don't know if it's ever confirmed which one this is. I think it's supposed to be the second Killer Frost.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know that much.
I don't know. I know that the third Killer Frost is Caitlin Snow, who's also one of the CW, who is sometimes also a hero.
Yeah.
So
Danielle Panabaker.
Exactly.
Girl.
What was her character's name in Sky High again? Plant Lady, but
yes. Hold on. Will Stronghold and it's not coming.
Oh, okay. Time's up. It's fine. While I keep ranting, you'll look it up, I'm sure. And then, we kind of get through all this. I'm like, well, wait, where's the Batman villain? You feel like Batman should have one too. And that's because they're holding on to that one because the first mission the Secret Society goes on is to rescue, or I guess more accurately, free Clayface from the collection of Morgan Edge.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I didn't remember this episode literally up until they make reference to the containers. I'm like, wait, Clayface? Is it Clayface? And then sure enough, it's Clayface. I'm like, yes!
I was shocked.
Yeah?
Honestly shocked. I was not expecting that. And also, again, being influenced by the other DC media, the animation on him was so good in these episodes.
It is.
I think because they, all the animators, sharpened their skills doing ink for 3 episodes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you compare it to the early, Batman and New Batman episodes, he's still liquidy, but he's not this, fluid as you see here. And it's very much, I feel like they traced over some ink sketches for this movement. They
may have. And I think, it kind of makes sense too, because you think about, the BTOS era, some of the animation is great. Some of it is very sloppy. I think it's fair to say it's inconsistent at least.
Yeah.
And that style was much more rounded and kind of fluid. And then the new Batman Adventures, we've talked about this, was deliberately designed to be easier on the animators in terms of the physical designs and some of the animation. So I think it was meant to be a little bit cheaper to some degree, although I think for the most part it looks really good. But I think this show is the best looking show, and it's consistently good looking. I think you're right that they maybe honed their skills a little bit on Batman Beyond. And here, yes, he's a Batman villain, but for most of these 2 episodes, he's going toe to toe against Martian Manhunter. Makes sense. They have a much more similar power set.
Yeah.
But I feel like they also had to step up their game on both characters. Like if you're gonna have 2 shape-shifting characters go head to head, you actually have to highlight their abilities. They do a really good job with that.
Oh, sorry. To finish my earlier thought, because I didn't even think Clayface at first. For some reason in my mind, I couldn't get off Plasmus from Teen Titans.
Oh, okay.
Because he's the opening episode of Teen Titans, which is technically episode 3 of Teen Titans, is when the team breaks up because they can't defeat Plasmus.
Oh,
and it's Plasmus
okay.
and Cinderblock teaming up with the Hive kids.
Oh, okay.
And that's when Cyborg and Robin have their big split.
Okay, so you're conflating your DC team up breakups.
Yes.
I mean, that's fair. It's
Both
fair.
of which are great.
Yeah. But yeah, so they get the whole team together, and then the ultimate goal is essentially to cause the Justice League to break up, which eventually happens. But so while this team is forming, while they're going and freeing Clayface, GL decides, hey, we need to work together as a team again. And so he takes them out to some random shooting range in a Western ghost town to run some drills. And I feel like this is now getting to the point where you're one big caveat. No, not yet. Okay. I mean, that being said, how did you feel about that whole sequence of them out there training in this old West town?
So it was a bad training regiment from Green Lantern. It makes sense for him because it's all kind of target practice-esque.
Yeah.
And it feels like things that would be good ring training.
Yes.
But not good. Because, like, the one thing we see is, like, all of Superman's villains popping up in cardboard form.
Yeah.
And him just lasering them.
Yes.
When he would never laser Lex or Mixus Pitlick or the third one we see, who I don't remember anymore.
It was Brainiac, Darkseid,
he would,
Lex, and Misty's Pitlick. Yeah.
He would laser Brainiac and Darkseid.
Yeah.
But he's not going to laser anyone else. And then, like, almost lasering a child. Like, there's no... And I understand that, like, they're all kind of frustrated right now. They kind of want to get it over with. But, like, you can punch just as fast.
Yeah. And you're right. It would work well for a ring training sequence, but only for this version of Green Lantern who only shoots beams.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the best thing to train a Green Lantern would be to throw really unexpected things at him. So you have to improvise and come up with clever constructs on the fly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, here is basically just a shooting gallery, which makes sense for Jon Stewart.
Right. And they have a couple Zeta style robots.
Yeah. That's kind of, it was a fun little nod to see that thrown in there. Yeah.
The old school Zeta.
Yeah. The original Zeta with the weird boomerang head. Mm-hmm. So.
And just watch him get smashed over and over again. That brought so much just like catharsis.
I was messaging with Cal and Liam at the DCA review this week on Twitter because they posted something about how like they're just not. Oh, it was the picture that's been released of the Joker in Justice League, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, when he's looking like even more Hot Topic than Killer Frost.
Yeah.
And he's looking all sad, and they put that up with a caption of, us thinking about having to review Zeta at some point. And I was like, it's fine. There's maybe one good episode in there.
Sure. Yeah, the finale, part 2.
I feel like both finales were kind of decent, right? If I recall, ish.
They were fine.
Is that one with the submarine, which I kind of liked? I think.
That wasn't a finale. That was
no, it was a different one. But I think
that was a good episode.
I think I kind of like that one. Yeah, but I was basically like,
I don't know where the benchmark is for good anymore.
I even said that. Like the bar is just so low.
I mean, we have a short list. I think it was like 3 episodes for season 1.
The funny thing is, I was looking back at our short lists and I didn't find it.
Oh, that's for the best.
We did one. I know we did one.
Yeah,
but I didn't write it down.
Because we made an anti-short list.
Oh, that's right. I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah, because there are no necessary episodes.
No, the whole thing can absolutely be skipped. I don't think we even included the Zeta episodes of Batman Beyond.
I think we did because we had to.
Oh, you're right. I think we did because we assumed we had to include them because it would set up the introduction of... unless it was season 1, I don't think we did. Because I don't have a season 1 list here.
No, oh, sorry. I misheard you. I thought because there was... Were there 2 Beyond episodes, or was there 1 Beyond and 1 Zeta?
There was... Okay, I think there were 3 then total, 3 crossovers. Because there was the original introduction of Zeta when he had the weird boomerang head.
Yep.
And then there was one more where they brought Ro in. I think, wasn't there a Batman Beyond when Roe appeared as well? I thought there was. It doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't.
It really doesn't.
None of this matters.
None of it matters. But anyways, yeah, they're trashing some Zeta bots out in this Western town thing. And then, of course, Batman just doesn't want to participate.
Well, yeah, because of all the people like who would be doing obstacle courses like this, Batman would have this down.
Yeah.
And be doing this all by himself. And Superman has this great speech of like, I take the hits so no one else on the team has to.
Yeah.
Batman should have jumped in of like, well, how about just none of us take the hits? Because that's how I fucking run.
I would have much preferred it if in that moment Batman pulled out the kryptonite ring and just clocks your man in the face.
So that is okay. I'm gonna get into my biggest caveat with these episodes.
All right, let me give you lots of room here to vent.
Yeah, I mean the biggest problem is like you have Superman giving this speech twice, basically, of like, I'm the most powerful person here. You all know that, and I know that.
Yeah.
And I'm basically holding myself back to make you guys be better. And by doing that, I'm also taking the most damage because I'm indestructible. But we see twice that his indestructibility is a negative to the team because Parasite can just take it.
Yeah.
So you like that needed to be brought up at some point of like, hey, Superman, like, yeah, you're good, but like, what if that power happened to be for somebody else? How would we deal with that? How would you deal with it if you were no longer indestructible? Because you're not anymore. You were zapped twice by this. And so like what they like from Green Lantern or Batman, there's like a priority target list you have to hit. And I made a list and I have it here.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
what is the priority list? And then you can also come in with your, you know, if you think any of this is wrong, of
Okay.
like who are the highest priority targets when taking out these teams? Because, you know, obviously they're going to do one-on-ones because that's how animation works.
Yes.
Because it's more fun. But like fucking you get out Parasite first. That is top priority. You take him out immediately as fast as you can. Because if he touches Manhunter, you're screwed. If he touches Superman, you're screwed. If he touches Wonder Woman, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Flash, he did, but they were able to catch him because I guess he just didn't understand how to work the power. But like if he catches 5 of the 7 members, they're immediately at a disadvantage. So,
I concur with your assessment to
Yeah,
take him out first.
immediately.
Yeah, he's priority 1. Okay.
I think 2 is Sinestro. Because
Agreed.
he has range damage.
Yeah.
I'm doing this based off, off of video game tactics.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so you want to get your squishy range characters out next. So that's Sinestro, Killer Frost. I think Grodd is next because even though he's more tanky comparative to the others, he's dealing a lot of mental damage, which is something you got to get rid of pretty quick because no one is adept to mental damage.
Yeah, he's got that psionic ability.
Yeah, there's no Zatanna to help balance that out.
Well, Martian Manhunter is telepathic.
Yeah, but it doesn't do anything.
That's true. Yeah, we could have a whole episode of this podcast dedicated to the fact that Martian Manhunter is the most powerful member of the League, and it's never shown.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, this episode, like, they do a great job with him in this episode. But it's still not showing his full power set.
They do for the most part, but they have that moment where, you know, he points out that he's a telepath, so he can like see something coming, but he's constantly, not in this episode necessarily, but over the course of the whole series, like getting hit by surprise, even though he's a telepath.
Yeah. Well, he also makes point multiple times of like, oh, it's against Martian code to just like read someone's mind without their,
Yeah.
what the word?
Consent.
Consent. Thank you.
Yes.
Without their consent. But then in this, like, they make it sound like Green Lantern at least makes it sound like you have a telepath on your team who always knows what's going on because he can just read someone else's mind on the team. But that's not what he does.
Yeah.
Like, Green Lantern, you should also be in this training, John.
I mean, again, you're talking about Young Justice. That's something that Young Justice did really well right from the beginning, is that they established that Miss Martian would telepathically connect all of them so they could cooperate silently together. But I think the egos here are a little bit too big.
Well, and also, Young Justice was meant to be a stealth team.
Right.
Because they were never meant to be in the spotlight until they were thrust into the spotlight in season 2.
Yes. But still.
Obviously.
It's a better team.
Yeah. So, yeah. Parasite, top priority. Sinestro, Killer Frost, Grodd. I think Shade is next because he's kind of a nuisance, but he's not like as big of a ranged problem as Sinestro or Killer Frost. Then Giganta is a pretty big problem. Or not like, she's kind of the least threat. She's kind of just there.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they, you know, get 3 people on her, then she'll be gone in 2 hits. And then Clayface is last. Because, like, while he's... I know, I think he's a big problem, but he doesn't really show off his skills. He's more of, like, an initial problem of just making sure your team is all connected. But again, if Martian Manhunter does a mental link, that makes it a lot easier to figure out which one isn't Clayface.
See, it's interesting because I would actually put Clayface higher up on that list because even to your point, if he is not as strategic as the other villains, like maybe he doesn't fully capitalize on his powers the way the others do, he is incredibly powerful. I mean, to the point where Grodd recruits him specifically because he's so powerful, even if he doesn't quite realize it. But not only can he kind of become any sort of weapon in the same way that, say, Sinestro can, but he can pretend to be any of the other heroes, which he does at a few points. And he's less squishy, as you put it, than Sinestro. Like at the end of the day, Sinestro is still a human-like being who's going to have human-like vulnerabilities. Clayface doesn't. I mean, yes.
We call them glass cannons in video game terms, in case you're wondering.
What, Sinestro's a glass cannon?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. I like it. But, Clayface, yeah, he can be taken out by water or ice, but that kind of weakens him, but it's hard to really take him out.
Which is why I think he should be left for last, because he takes the most resources to, actually get down.
Okay.
Whereas most of these other ones, it's kind of just a couple punches and they're out.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, also, I say all that, and then in the second, or I guess the second part, we see Batman literally just incapacitate him with an electric grapple.
Yeah,
so.
Twice.
He's not particularly bright.
No, and I think that is like I said, he's great at the espionage side of his skill set.
Yeah.
Except when he doesn't understand but he is a good combative villain. He just doesn't on a not a power scale, on a I guess martial art scale. I don't think he's as comparable to some of these other ones. Like him and Giganta are both in the very much mindset of just smash everything.
Yeah.
And eventually I'll hit something.
They have power, but not skill.
Yes.
I think it's a good way of differentiating it. Whereas, to your point, I think Sinestro has both power and skill. Parasite has power. I don't know if he has skill necessarily, but his power is so strong that with minimal skill, he still poses a huge threat. And
also, his power is immediately incapacitating one of the League members.
That's true. Yeah, it has a double effect. It incapacitates and gives him more power.
Yeah. So absolutely everyone should Batman immediately is hey, you guys handle everything. I'm gonna chill in the shadows. And the second Parasite shows up, I'm gonna take him out. Yeah. I am the only one that can.
Mm-hmm. And he would be the best person too, because I suppose Parasite could absorb his memories and some of his strategic thinking, but Batman's capable of staying out of touch.
He would know how to deal with that.
He would know how to evade, which no one else can seem to figure out.
Exactly.
But yeah,
it was so frustrating for Superman to have this cocky attitude for 2 whole episodes.
Yeah.
And then just be no, man, you're immediately taken out twice by the same guy who already. It's not like a surprise character. You say his name.
You're all friends.
Yeah.
All pals. You're not wrong. And it's funny because the whole point of this episode from the Justice League side is that they don't know how to work together as a team. They don't have strategy. They don't have communication. They're not really an effective team in a lot of ways. They're just a bunch of more or less heavy hitters working in semi-cooperation.
Yeah.
But I didn't really feel like it did a good job actually highlighting that they don't work well together. The little things that go wrong here and there are just kind of obvious ones. Even during the training montage, Hawkgirl goes and swings her mace and blows up a Zeta bot, which then explodes. And she's like, well, how could I have known? And Geo points out, well, we have a telepath who could have told you, and Superman has X-ray vision. He could have told you that what you were doing was a bad idea. And it's little moments like that that get the idea across, but seem a little bit superficial. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's also because we're so far into the series at this point, it seems odd to now have an episode about this.
If this was, episode 5 of season 1.
Yeah.
If they replaced this with even just the first Injustice Gang episode.
Yeah.
Even though, we need this to be later on because of that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that A story, or I guess the Justice League part of the A story.
I call it the A story, yeah.
If they just put that A story in the old Injustice episode, where you have Lex doing his thing on one side, and like, you know, you can still keep Batman being the one that jumps ship from training and is then captured by the Injustice Gang.
Yeah.
Like that still works as an episode, and it still works as a like, hey, we're still new at this as a team, and maybe we did just need to come together for that one thing. Maybe like after we beat the aliens, now we're done. Like we've done it all together.
Yeah.
We don't need this anymore.
They just need to unite the seven.
You need to unite the seven.
Unite the seven. I mean, the one problem is the first... Was it the first or the second Injustice Gang? But whichever Injustice Gang where they capture Batman and he takes them all down single-handedly also very much undermines the whole point of this episode.
Yes, I also forgot that is how the episode ended, was Batman doing it all by himself.
Yeah, like he gets captured inadvertently, but even while he's captured and tied up and literally just has his mouth to get his way out of things, he can only speak to escape. He undermines the entire Injustice Gang.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting idea here. And it just didn't feel to me like it quite came together in the way it needed to really justify them ultimately kind of breaking up. Because there's even like a weird moment where they have this kind of conflict out in the range. Batman basically just goes, fuck it, I'm out of here. Like, I don't need to be a part of this. You can waste your time figuring this stuff out, but this is, call me when it's actually important.
Yeah.
So then he goes off to kind of investigate on his own. And we have a moment where he is alone, seemingly alone in this like warehouse or chemical plant or something like that. And all of a sudden the rest of the Secret Society shows up and, Batman's like, oh, you brought backup. I wish I had thought of that. And then the League busts and he's like, oh wait, I did. The whole idea of Batman going off on his own, I think was kind of meant to be a bit of a red herring. So we assume that he's going to be on his own when the Secret Society shows up. And then of course the rest of the League is there. But again, it was like, they've handled that fight in the same way they kind of handle most fights, which is they mostly splinter off and do one-on-one sort of things, and they more or less have the upper hand kind of until the very last minute, and then the whole idea is like, they got away, we didn't do good enough job because they escaped, well, let's just go ahead and break up.
Yeah.
And I know that they're going to justify that decision more in the beginning of part 2, but for me at least, the end of part 1, it didn't really feel earned. I don't know how did you feel about that?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think if this was an early episode and they could just kind of like have it be the alien thing, just like that was why we needed to team up. That threat is no longer here. So why are we still here?
Yeah. I didn't buy that after, for us as viewers of the show, almost 2 whole seasons, 2 years more or less. But I think even in the universe itself, they've been doing this for at least a couple of years now.
Yeah.
More or less.
And they do try and make it a point of like, oh, it's actually Grodd's like slowly manipulating them into having these feelings, or at least like bringing these feelings to the surface.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like we don't see Grodd actually, like when we ever see Grodd use his power, it's, he's concentrating on using his power. It's not like this subconscious activity that he's doing. It's like I'm sending these quiet brain waves over space.
Well, and yeah, because like that is the opening of part 2, is they basically established that one, Grodd has these psionic abilities that was somehow a result of the Flash rewiring his mind control helmet from The Brave and the Bold from season 1. Because the last time we saw Grodd is that he was catatonic.
Right.
So they basically in like one quick sentence, more or less, say, oh, and this is now in, setting up the beginning of part 2, but the opening of part 2, they start justifying some decisions at the end of part 1. So it's like, oh yeah, Grodd just somehow developed these psionic abilities. We're not going to talk about the fact that he was last seen catatonic, and he's been slowly emotionally manipulating the League so that they're more inclined to say the things they wouldn't otherwise. And that does actually go a long way to justifying that decision for the League to break up. But I feel like that had to be set up in part 1 to make it actually play. Like, no one believes at the end of part 1 that they're not going to get back together. So it's not a super effective cliffhanger. So why not go ahead and set up the real reason why they're breaking up in part 1 so that it does feel a little more earned and justified? Because it's not like we actually expect this to be the end of the Justice League, especially knowing there's a part 2 coming. Right.
And dare I say, it has been a minute since I've pitched such an offhand idea.
Oh God, are you proposing a part 3 and 4 to really stretch these out?
I'm proposing a part 3.
A whole part 3 that's just a long flashback sequence to how Gorilla Grodd escaped his prison?
But they need, I think it's important that Grodd brings up the distinction of mind control versus kind of bringing up suppressed feelings,
Yeah.
which is kind of what it sounds like he's doing.
Yeah.
Is he's just raising the tension in the group.
He's not getting them to do anything they wouldn't want to do. He's just holding back their inhibitions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think a part 3 needs to be kind of what I said at the top of we need a reconcile moment of the team to show that like, oh, we are best when we're together. And, you know, at the end of part 2, you can have it of like, okay, we did it, but, you know, we still said a lot of shit and I still kind of believe it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, even though I was influenced, they're still my thoughts and my feelings. And I still think I would do better without you. So you need something to come in and show them that like they are fractured apart. Except for Batman, because he's always fine.
Because he's always fine on his own. Yeah, they don't.
Or even just Batman being the one that has to bring them back. He's like, hey, like, I know I'm good at this, and I know you're okay at this, but, you know, I still will need to call you occasionally, once a year, for a Halloween special.
Halloween special. Because, yeah, there's never really an effective reconciliation point in this episode, nor is there really a good resolution to their breakup. So when we start out in the beginning of the second part, you know, the group has been broken up and we figure out that Grodd has been emotionally manipulated them to encourage them to do that, but he's not done with them. He needs to recollect them all together again so we can defeat them on the world's largest stage, an American football field.
Absolutely.
But to get there, he has to capture them all again, which again seems a little bit silly. Like, he had them all last time.
Yeah.
He could have just done this the first time around, but I guess he had to splinter them off so then he could, one would think, take them out one by one, which he starts to do, but then it changes. So after the league is broken up...
Well, it was a scheduling conflict. He was trying to get the next Gotham City game, then he realized it's an away game. And
okay.
No one really cares about Central City's football team.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they're like, yeah, but like there's not gonna be the same attendance in the Central City game. So like I know there's another game happening 3 days earlier. So how about instead of going for like each of them individually one day at a time, we just like compress it, get 4 in one day. We can have a day off, just kind of relax. Maybe, you know, go get a massage. You just go kind of like I heard there's a great hike where you walk by a waterfall, which would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
And then we can go and show them off at Gotham City after that.
That's true. He likes a plan, Grodd.
Yeah.
This is all very deliberate. But yeah, so the league has kind of been split apart. And so what I will say about this, even though I think that the contrivance of having them separate is a little bit silly, it does give an opportunity for, I think, a handful of really good character moments that I liked a lot. So the first one that comes to mind is the Flash decides he's going to go find Shade on his own. And so to do that, he's going to interrogate some of the Shade's henchmen, and he's going to do it Batman style with literally like dangling the guy off the side of a building. And the guy doesn't buy it. He's like, "You're not Batman.
Yeah.
Like, what about this do you think is going to work? Like, you are not that guy.
You're the jokester. Yeah. You're not going to do anything mean."
And so, one, it's fun to see the Flash try to employ the methods of his other teammates. You know, like especially Batman, who I think he does really look up to, and we see little moments here and there of him trying to not only prove to Batman that he is an effective hero, but also try to learn from Batman. Yeah. So he has that moment of like, okay, I'm going to try your methods. And when it doesn't work, I love it. He just drops the guy and then just runs down the side of the building next to him like, yeah, you want to talk now? And it's, yes, fine, I'll talk. But it's a clever like twist and then a twist on a twist of him trying something different and not going the way he wants it to. And then he just employs his kind of old methods anyways, but with a slightly darker edge. It's a really fun moment.
It was.
And I think sometimes the Flash shines best when he does get to operate on his own. I think otherwise I think when he's with the rest of the league, he does kind of blend in and just kind of serves as the jokester in a lot of ways. But when he's on his own, he proves that he's actually very effective at what he does. He's a really good hero. So I liked that moment a lot. And then, yeah, he does end up getting captured after all this. And then he seemingly calls Batman for help. And then when Batman shows up, Flash is standing over the body of the Shade, right? I forget who he's standing on top of. He's like, hey, I got him, yo.
Yeah.
And then Batman just pulls out a grapple gun, fires it into his chest, and electrifies it, and we immediately see that it's Clayface. Because if Clayface is one thing, is he's a terrible actor.
Yes. I love that has come back.
The yo from the Flash commercials. Yeah.
or even just like the concept of Clayface not being a great actor.
Yeah.
Because obviously that is one of our favorite parts of Harley Quinn's series. But yeah, and I also love to think that like this isn't the first time Batman has tried that before.
Yep.
And like that's just how he passively gets his aggression out against members. Like, I had to make sure you weren't someone in disguise.
You're not
This is the only way I could have done it. So I threw a battering at your head.
Because his reasoning is that if it were the Flash would have been fast enough to miss the grapple, which I suppose is true. But also, even if it wasn't the Flash, or even if it was the Flash and got electrocuted, Batman wouldn't care.
Right, and that's the point.
He wouldn't be too upset about it.
He would absolutely throw a battering at Hawkgirl, knowing that she could stop it with her mace.
Yeah.
So just had to make sure. You never know. Clayface is loose.
That's the training that he's been doing with them this entire time. Is he's basically just waiting to like spring an attack on them and see how they fight back.
That's the other thing with the training of like, I want to see them do the training montage again now that they know like villain specific training.
Yeah.
And then it's just Batman hiding behind a barrel and like jumping and like latching onto Superman's back of like, I'm Parasite. How do you handle this? Ah! Spider Monkey.
Honestly, like as much as I like these episodes, I want to see that.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, no, that's a fun moment though when he does the grapple. And then I also really like the moment when Jon Stewart is talking with Hawkgirl.
Yes. So I wanted to bring this up too, because this is something that I've brought up before, but this is taken straight from the comics.
Oh, is it?
Yes, from the few that I've read.
That comic knowledge really coming in handy.
It is.
This time.
And I brought it up before, when Hal is gone under the control of Parallax, and at the beginning of the Rebirth series, or maybe this is even pre-Rebirth, there's a great conversation between Guy and John, which is this, I think, almost word-for-word conversation.
Oh, okay.
Where, as I've mentioned before, like, the Green Lanterns of Earth are so good at what they do because they don't just blindly take orders like you see so many of the other Lanterns do. And it's because of their individualism. And like John specifically, as we've mentioned a handful of times, is almost constantly his entire life part of a very regimented organization, be it the Marines, the Lantern Corps, the Architects Guild, very regimented.
Very serious, that group, yeah.
But he's, him and Hal are both, notorious for always standing up for what they believe is right, even if it goes against what they've been taught is right.
Sure.
And so when you see John, who just kind of like folding to the pressure of his soldierhood, and, you can't, if Hawkgirl saying, we are still individuals, but you're not letting us be individuals. That is so hitting him at his core of like, that's right.
And then which Corps? The Marine Corps or the Green Lantern Corps?
The Marine Corps.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Architects Corps.
The Architects Corps.
Yeah, so she says, you wanted us to stop being individuals. We were all just soldiers to you. And that is so powerful for John to hear, seeing that, like, I've become what I've feared most.
Yeah.
I've become fear.
Yeah.
I've become fear of individuality, which in any sense of fear is against his lantern code.
Yeah.
And also against his willpower. And it's so good. It's such a good single line moment. That people have to understand is so integral to his character.
Yeah.
We don't see that character as much in the series, but in the wider universe of DC, it is a very important fact for him to see what he is becoming.
Yeah. But I agree with you, though. It's important to Jon Stewart as a character across all mediums, but I think it still applies to him very much in this show, too. Like, he is the guy who wants to be, like, part of a more militaristic unit. Like, he wants everyone to work as a team. And, yeah, I think not only is it a good conversation that highlights who he is as a character, but, it's also doing a little bit of work to set up, like, further that relationship.
Yes.
Too, because he says, well, what do you mean I don't see you as individuals? Like, I would die for you. And Hawkgirl just says, you don't know what you're talking about, and flies off. But it's the idea that she wants to be seen as something very special to him in particular. And so the idea that he's basically just treating them all like interchangeable units in an army, which make her personally even more than anyone else. And, she was the right character to choose to have that conversation with him.
Right.
And it's probably one of the best moments in this whole thing. In an episode that overarching structure maybe kind of okay, but it is filled with great moments. And I think you're right. I think that's probably the best one here.
Yeah.
It's really touching, and it gets to the core of those characters. No, I love it. And, it propels him on a mission then to figure out what's going on, because he finally notices the weird little floating camera
which
behind
Batman
him.
would have noticed immediately.
The man who misses nothing, Batman, somehow was missed that they've all been followed by these really blatant looking little floating eyeballs.
Yeah.
This entire time.
The entire time.
But GL finally spots it, and so he blasts it out of the sky, and then he pulls the comm out of it and, decides to see where it takes him. And so what it does is it takes him to like this underground mountainside cave. That basically it's just the Bat Cave, more or less.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the Grodd Cave.
the Grodd Cave. The Grotto?
That's good. I was going to say Gorilla Grove, but Grotto is much better.
Yes. But yeah, so he leads him there where he discovers that he's the last League member standing, right? They've captured everyone else.
So we think.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, because I guess we forgot the part where they all get different messages from different other leaguers. The rest of the league does, like, oh, hey, like, I got a call from Flash. Oh, I got a call from Batman. What are we doing here? And then they get taken out in like 5 minutes.
Yes. But it is one of the best fight sequences between Manhunter and Clayface.
It is a good fight
That
sequence.
is fantastically animated.
It is really beautifully animated. We get to see both of them fully embracing their shape changing and going head to head.
Yeah, two puddles of water clashing.
Exactly.
Everything we said we hated about the Venom movie was this fight
Exactly.
scene.
It's just here, but it's done better. But yeah, because Clayface even takes on the persona of Martian Manhunter. And so one of them gets frozen by icicle. And of course, we assume it's MM.
Yeah, well, because we see the Manhunter standing turned back into Clayface.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So GL thinks he's the last one. And so he goes there and he finds everyone captured, and he tries to lead the other villains away with his little laser decoy.
Good strategy. Separate. It's exactly Grodd's strategy. It's separate then destroy.
Exactly. Yeah. And he goes in and tries to rescue them, but of course he ends up failing. So then they're all gathered up together, and then Grodd takes him in his massive Brainiac style ship over a football game between the Gotham Knights and the something else that I have forgotten.
Century City Sentinels.
Thank you.
I have no idea. That's just my guess. I
You're
bet
probably
it's a
right.
good name.
You're probably right. And of course, they interrupt in the middle of the halftime show, which this is just a personal note for me. I was really hoping that was going to be Cassidy, the pop star from the Firefly episode.
Yeah.
And look, I get why there's no reason to have it be that. They choose like some other
Tina Spires.
Exactly. Some new character entirely. But it would have been fun just as a small callback to see like that character pop up again. Mm-hmm. Small note there. But, so now they're literally going to have the two of them, like the two teams basically go face to face in the middle of this football field because, surprise, it's actually Clayface inside the ice and Martian Manhunter breaks all the rest of them free. And then it becomes like, it is what the Weekly Planet does in like their superhero versus battles. It's literally like two teams or two individuals going against each other on an American football field. It's super cheesy.
Yeah, no prep, no weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Super cheesy. I actually loved it though.
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah. In any other version of this, it would seem so silly. It's not necessarily in the middle of broad daylight, but it's in the middle of a stadium, so it's really lit. There's a huge audience watching this happen. This is the most exposed Batman has ever been in his entire life.
Yeah, he hates it.
Like, the number of people who have actually seen Batman in person, like, just exponentially grew by being in the middle of a football field.
Yeah.
Because he's an urban legend still, more or less. Not anymore.
And especially it being in Gotham.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so now people know that there's a Batman. They all saw him. But it's a fun fight at the end of the day.
It's very fun. And it's the classic strategy of, hey, we fought the same people twice. How about we just like rearrange a little bit?
Yeah.
And everyone wins their own individual fights. Because it's Flash takes out Killer Frost instead of fighting Shade. Mm-hmm. Batman takes out Shade. Where's the list? Wonder Woman takes out Parasite and Giganta. Mm-hmm. Flash and Hawkgirl take out Clayface. After blowing him up. Did they blow him up? Why am I remembering that?
I think they do. I don't know. I forgot a lot of this.
I have in my notes, after blowing him up, what the fuck? Why didn't they just freeze him?
Okay.
And then the great end button, Superman flicking Grodd on the nose.
Yes.
Sending him over the goalposts.
Yeah, right. Again, so cheesy.
Yeah.
But it works.
It does.
Just because it's super fun. And yeah, to your point, they do change their strategy a little bit it doesn't necessarily feel like a real
Nothing
resolution.
they learned in training, that's for sure.
I mean, that's the thing is there's an arc set up here that's not followed through to the end. There's a starting point. There's a bunch of stuff that just kind of maintains at a constant level all the way through the episode. And at the end, they work together as a team. And the resolution is, well, what now? It's like, well, we just apologize and move on. Which, yeah, that's true. It didn't feel like there was a catharsis in any sort of way here. There's no resolution to the conflict. It's basically like, well, we realize that sometimes we don't work together and we're just not going to worry about it and move on. Mm-hmm. And it never really comes up again.
Yeah, which is very adult man conflict resolution.
That's true. We're just going to pretend there isn't a problem.
Yeah.
It's fine. This is fine.
What's the John Mulaney joke? I'll display my emotions like an Irishman. I'll keep them all bottled up and then I'll die.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. That's basically just what happens here. But I mean, all that being said, I still like these episodes.
I think they're so much fun.
They're really fun. I think it's a really interesting batch of villains. Like I said at the top of the show, it reminded me of that last season of BTOS where we had established villains and we did something different with them, right? They threw them in new situations. Harley tries to go straight. The ventriloquist actually does go straight properly. Like the villain is trying to do something outside their norm. It's not them just trying to do the same thing again. So in this case, it's not just an anti-Justice League trying to defeat the League, but trying to break them up and break their spirit rather than just literally punching them to death the way they would normally try in the past. So it was a nice way to put a fresh take on a familiar archetype, basically. And I think for that, it's good. They're really fun. I mean, this will be an interesting one to talk about when we get to our short list.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a hard one to decide if it has to stay or not.
I'm gonna say yes already.
All right. Well,
I think it's great.
We'll see when we get there. But no, I mean, overall, these are really fun. It was kind of a nice I found myself just watching these. Like, I wasn't taking super thorough notes because I was like, this is just really entertaining.
I want it because we kind of brushed over it at the top. Mm-hmm. There's two moments I want to bring up really quick. One, the hilarious villains doing trust falls was one of the funniest moments we've seen in this series.
I forgot about that. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Giganta being worried Killer Frost won't catch her, and then obviously she doesn't catch her because Giganta is
big,
heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
But also Grodd's like thinking about the team, and I love this thought process of Shade worrying like, hey, I've been through this twice already, acknowledging the past two injustice gangs, and we've always lost because someone offers them a bigger paycheck. Batman. Yeah. He's like, oh no, I specifically picked this team because their team not chasing paychecks. Yeah. Sinestro's here because I promised him Green Lantern. Mm-hmm. Killer Frost is here because I promised her that she can just kill anything and anyone. Yep. Clayface is here because I told him that I can not just revert his humanity, but also let him keep his power while still being human. Right. You're here because I know you want to be the world's greatest thief, and I can give that to you. Giganta's here because I guess she used to be my ape daughter, maybe. I don't think it's daughter, but yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I didn't do a lot of research on her. I think she's had different origins in the comics. I think this is based off of like an older version of her that maybe was also one of the gorillas in Gorilla City, and then she changed somehow. This whole thing felt very weird. And I think it was because I also wasn't sure if it was a lie, because it might have just been a lie for Clayface. True. It could have been. Yeah, his whole thing with Giganta is that she's super loyal to him. Yes. So, and then Parasite wants to take out Superman. Right. Yeah. So it's all based off of basically Grodd's promises. Yeah. Instead of money, which I think is genius. Obviously there's its own problems, and it is the foil of the villain of having this kind of hubris of thinking I can give you the world. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you raise a good point though. This iteration of the Secret Society succeeds where the Injustice Gang failed because no one betrays them. Right. Like they make the mistake of letting Martian Manhunter swap himself out with Clayface, but like that was they couldn't really do anything about that. They couldn't really do anything about it. So it wasn't like Killer Frost like froze them on her own accord. Like Grodd kind of gave her the thumbs up. Like gave her the go ahead. Oh, the Roman Emperor, like thumb up, thumb down. Yeah. Grodd gave him the thumbs up on like, okay, we did it, we beat him, now you can freeze him. Yeah. So it wasn't like any individual messing up. Like they did kind of the best they could. Yeah. Grodd, like in his own way, was as successful as a plan could get.
No, it's true. It wasn't from their own folly that they failed. The League actually did just get the best of them, and only through the narrowest of chances.
Yeah, which is why I think I enjoy this episode so much. Is it's not, there's no one's tripping at the finish line, and that's what caused their defeat.
Yeah. No, the Secret Society is way better than the Injustice Gang.
Absolutely,
because Grodd's a better bad guy than Lex Luthor.
He is. Because he actually, they always talk about how smart Lex is.
Yeah.
But he always thinks with his wallet and any opportunity he can.
Yeah. Well, and his ego. That's the big thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And not to say that Grodd doesn't have an ego, but I think Grodd is just much more strategic and succumbs less to his ego and his passions.
Right. And that is also our favorite subplot of Red Sun.
Yeah.
Is we see the strategic side of Lex, but also having that come in conflict with the ego side.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he is a great character, and the DCU mostly does a pretty good job with him. But yeah, I think in this situation, Grodd is just a better version.
Yeah. And, I think up until he kind of teams with Brainiac.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
That's when he kind of... Again, but that's also an ego thing, because then he just realizes he can do it all himself.
Yeah. No, I mean, Lex is going to continue to have interesting story arcs throughout JLU.
Yeah, brain swapping.
Oh, yeah?
Best story arc.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I don't know who this is.
Yeah, who is? I don't know. But yeah, no, he did good. He's really fun. I liked him.
I did too.
Yeah.
Trust falls. Villain trust falls.
Villain trust falls. Such a silly moment. Works perfectly.
Yeah. I would love the heroes having to do trust falls, and Batman being like, "Yeah, I can catch you, Superman. Just fall." And Superman falling as slow as he could because he's just hovering until he finally gets to Batman. He's like, "You don't trust me."
Yeah. Batman just walks away. Doesn't even say anything. just glares, narrows his eyes, turns around, and walks away. All right. Well, anything else on these, or should we move on here?
I think that covers everything. Like I said, I minus my one caveat of priority targeting with my video game logic.
I liked your video game logic. It was solid. It was very, very solid. Very well thought out.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's mosey on here. Why don't we do some bat plugs, Cameron? What do you got to plug this week?
Plugs. So we bring this podcast up pretty often of what this format is based off of, the Weekly Planet podcast.
Yeah, we literally brought them up earlier this episode.
We did.
Yeah.
But I recently started subscribing to their kind of side podcast. They have a whole network called Big Sandwich Co. because the idea is their network costs as much as a Big Sandwich would per month. So it's a subscription-based service.
Yeah.
But they have I think it's a hilarious series just based off of my own past with these kind of, I'm going to call them scam articles is what they are. These,
well, they're clickbait.
Yeah, they're clickbait articles. Yeah. But one of the most egregious companies that do this is a website called WeGotThisCovered.com. So they have a podcast called We Got This Covered.
Yes.
Which is them going over the best and worst of clickbait over the week and dissecting the stupidity of these articles. And it is so much fun. And just so nice to hear how stupid, because I don't read a lot of these. You see the headline, you're like, what is this?
I thought you were just going to say, I don't read a lot.
I don't read. But it is a very fun, if you're very interested in this side world, We Got This Covered is a very, very fun, funny podcast.
Yeah.
And then I don't think I brought this up last week, because I think I was on my Nick kick last week. But I started rewatching the Green Lantern series on HBO Max.
Oh, yeah.
It is okay.
Okay.
I think it's still worth a rewatch, but after finally watching Clone Wars, this is just a Clone Wars clone.
Okay.
I think it is Cartoon Network / Warner Brothers trying to jump on the hype that was Clone Wars of the time. Because this would have been around, because it's season 4, season 5 of Clone Wars. When it came out. And it's still good. It's still fun, but it is kind of, sorry, not Clone Wars. I'm wrong. It is kind of what Rebels became. I think Rebels did it better it's the Green Lanterns going to beyond the 3600 sectors and trying to find kind of voyage Green Lanterns to take down the new threat of the Red Lanterns. And so it's them finding lesser trained lanterns for Hal and Kilowog to train in order to defeat a greater villain.
Okay.
Who is also hunting them down to take their ring energy.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That classic, the heroes and the villains are after the same person.
Yeah.
Kind of like the first season of X-Men Evolution.
Yes,
who will
that's
go
a better example because I was
Yeah.
going to say Jackie Chan Adventures.
who will go to which side?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not really like who will flip as much as like the Red Lanterns just want to kill all the Green Lanterns.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, makes sense. The Red Lanterns.
Yeah.
So.
But it's good. Saint Walker is my favorite character in the Green Lantern universe. He's
Mm-hmm.
the head of the Blue Lantern Corps. And I forgot how early we see him, and he's so much fun in that series.
Okay.
He's in episode like 3 or 4 when you meet Mogo, my other favorite Green Lantern.
The planet.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's it's a nice kind of just like background show for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it's worth a watch.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
What about you? What have you been watching, listening, reading?
I watched this last week a movie I had never seen. I'm doing
Oh.
a
That's rare for this podcast.
I'm doing a catch up on like basically classic, not even like movies that are really popular amongst gay culture. I'm expanding my gay education, as it were, sort
Okay.
of. And so this last week I watched The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds.
Okay, is that the one where is that the one where she sings 9 to 5?
So that's 9 to 5. where she sings
Great.
where she sings 9 to 5. But what I didn't realize is the song I Will Always Love You that Whitney Houston made most famous in The Bodyguard originated in this movie.
Okay.
So Dolly Parton wrote that song for this movie, which was not part of the original musical, I think, that the movie's based off of. It was original to this, but then it just took on this entirely new life and context with The Bodyguard. But I mean, the whole idea is that Dolly Parton is running the best little whorehouse in Texas, and that she constantly gives money to the neighborhood, and it's like a staple, and they have these rules, and it's part of the community. Everyone loves it, and the local sheriff, played by Burt Reynolds, is kind of keeping an eye on them. But then this TV investigator, played by the just over-the-top Dom DeLuise, decides he's going to expose the whorehouse for what it is, and causes all this mess to unfold. It's really cute. It's really, really fun and funny.
Very cute. It sounds like a kind of like a more wholesome version of Hustlers.
The funny thing is, it is super wholesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's never really very lewd or crude.
I would never expect Dolly Parton to do such a thing.
Yeah, like there is a little bit of nudity, as you would expect from an American movie of that era.
Yeah.
But not as much as it could be, and not as like gratuitously as you would get in like other more like maybe male focused, like straight male focused kind of quote unquote rom-coms or raunchy comedies at the time.
Yeah.
But actually is super wholesome, and like I love Burt Reynolds, and you always think of him as this classic tough guy, and he is a tough guy in this movie, but he also has a sensitive side that he does let come through, especially in this film. It's super cute. It also has an extended sequence with a college football team where like they've won the game, and then it's them like going, like taking on showers and then getting ready to go to the whorehouse to celebrate. And it is one of the gayest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it made me even more gay watching it.
Good. I must have told you about this horrible, wonderful musical, Give It Up.
You must have mentioned it at some point.
It's a High School Musical parody. And I watched it with my mom on Valentine's Day about 10 years ago now.
Wait, dare I ask, is it called Give It Up because it's about people losing their virginity?
Close.
Okay.
It is a college where the basketball team is so bad at basketball that the cheerleaders refuse to have sex with them until they win a game.
Okay, you have told me about
Yes.
this. Yeah.
If anyone can find it, I think it was only on for like a short stint in Dallas. But like, I would love to rewatch that now because I think it is such an absurd. So like the quick, super fast. The cheerleaders refuse to have sex with the basketball players, so the basketball players go to the local whorehouse that's obviously in the college town and start sleeping with the prostitutes.
Yeah.
And then the cheerleaders are upset, and so they go to the pimp who teaches them how to be better sex workers.
Oh my God.
In order to seduce the basketball players again, and then repeat the cycle and make sure and then in the end they finally win a basketball game and everyone gets to have sex. And it is
there's so many layers to that.
Amazing. It is amazing. There's not something to watch with your mother on Valentine's Day when you're in high school. Amazing. But like now I would love to rewatch something like that.
All right. Well, let me see if I can track down a version of it so I can throw it into the plugs.
Yeah.
Here. Give It Up. All right. It's
It is absurd.
But so, okay, a couple fun campy recommendations there. And the last plug I have is actually a recommendation from a listener.
Oh.
So a regular contributor to the show, Jake, a.k.a. The Overvoid on Twitter, one of our good podcast friends. He had recommended listening to the Assassin's Creed Black Flag score,
Okay.
which is in its own a fun score.
Are there
It's-
sea shanties?
There's sea shanties.
Oh, shit.
So it is like it. Also, just a normal score, like a really good kind of Pirates of the Caribbean-esque score, primarily from Brian Taylor with some other contributors as well. But then there's like 20 some odd sea shanties in there as well.
Amazing.
So I'll link the album, like the master album that has all of it. But it's both a good score, like a good fun, like action-packed, like listening, a pump-up energy score, and then just a shitload of really fun sea shanty.
Amazing. I am immediately in.
It's Jake, you've started to get me on the sea shanty trend.
Yeah.
For good or bad.
It is hilarious that is the theme of 2021 is sea shanties.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm here for it. All right, but that's it for plugs. So, Cameron, I think you got a question for us this week. So what do you got?
I do have a question. I have a pretty simple question, and this is one that I think everyone kind of has their own answer to. But if you had to pick one member of this Justice League to have an individual series like Batman or Superman had, who would you pick, and what would you want their overarching villain to be? And also, if you want to think beyond this team of 7, if you can extend it to any member of the JLU, who would you want to have kind of their own animated series?
Okay, so now, do you want? I have up here on my computer the roster for the JLU.
Oh,
Should I go through it real quick? Just for
let's do it.
For the
Why
sake
not?
We're not going to go through one by one and be like, would this make a good show? I'm going to list all of them.
Blue Devil. What does his
So-
main villain look like?
Just in case the listeners are trying to remember some of the more esoteric characters they might want to see. So obviously we have the main 7. I don't think that bears repeating. At this point, you know who they are. Beyond that, we have Aquaman, Atom Smasher, Aztec, Buana Beast,
I fucking love Buona Beast.
Black Canary, the aforementioned Blue Devil, Booster Gold, Captain Atom, Captain Marvel, Commander Steel, Creeper, Crimson Avenger, Crimson Fox, Dr. Fate, Dr. Light, Dr. Midnight, Dove, Elongated Man, Etrigan, Fire, Green Arrow, Gypsy, Hawk, Hawkman, Hourman, Huntress, Ice, Johnny Thunder, Long Shadow, Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific, Nemesis, Obsidian, Orion, Plastic Man, Question, Ray, Red Tornado, Rocket Red, Stripe, Sand, Shining Knight, Speedy, Stargirl, Starman, Steel, Supergirl, Thunderbolt, Vibe, Vigilante, Vixen, Waverider, Wildcat, and Zatanna.
Yeah, I was trying to envision them all in my head as you were going, and it gave me a headache.
Look, there are some ones...
I know like 80%, I think, at this point.
There's some ones that even I like barely remember because they're just not featured a lot, even with the JLU.
They're kind of just like background shots.
Yeah, so there you go. For anyone who's trying to remember the full roster of the JLU, there you have it. Cameron, what is your answer? Who would you like to see a show?
I mean, obviously Green Lantern.
Even though we have a Green Lantern animated series?
Yeah, but not this, because I'm basing it off of this DCAU.
So you want a Green Lantern show based around a Green Lantern that never makes constructs?
No, but he would.
Would he now? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't so far.
Well, because, you know, like we see in the Green Lantern show and in the comics that I mentioned ad nauseum last week, there's so many other Lantern stories, and you can have John kind of bouncing sector to sector, helping out other Lanterns if they need, you know, and he can learn from them at the same time. Or you can just make it, I don't want an origin story, never mind. I still think it would be fun. Mm-hmm. And I would love for an overarching villain. I think it would be too far for them to do something like this, but I think Black Hand would be an awesome... He's the leader of the Black Lantern Corps.
Okay.
Who revives everyone after Final Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be fascinating as a comic, as a TV villain, because it would take a couple seasons for him to like really get into his power.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having someone create a zombie army of villains and heroes is such a cool concept. But I think the better answer is Flash. I think Flash deserves its own series.
Okay. So this version of the Flash?
Yeah.
And who would you want the main villain to be?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like they always set up Grodd to be kind of his nemesis. I don't know who I'd want his arcing villain to be. Give me a second. Give me your answer. And
Okay.
Then we can look back.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because there are a lot of favorite characters that I have that I would love to see get their own shows. Part of the challenge is a lot of them have gotten their own shows, not necessarily in animation, but say in live action on the CW
Right.
or,
Yeah. Flash
or
and Green
elsewhere,
Lantern
right?
both got a series.
You know, it's like I love Green Arrow. I think he's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I watched a good chunk of Arrow, but it was his own kind of different thing. Like the idea of maybe a show based around Black Canary, and Green Arrow could be super fun.
Yes.
I mean, my initial thought was The Question, but he gets so much screen time.
Season 2 is basically him and
Huntress. Like
yeah.
they get so much time together. I don't know if there's that much more you can do. Like Booster Gold would be fun, but does that joke work beyond just like the one episode we get based around him? I don't really know if it does. I mean, I think I would like to see a magic focused show.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking Dr. Fate, Etrigan, Zatanna.
I would love the Zatanna series.
Yeah, and you're getting kind of into the space a little bit of Justice League Dark there, and some of those animated movies are some are better, some are worse. They're kind of okay overall, but I think that is at least an area of the DCAU that is touched upon at points. You know, previous week's episodes being a great example of that, the magical realm of all of this. But I think there's so much unexplored ground there, and I think those three characters are so interesting even on their own, and they would have an interesting dynamic together. That's the one that I would pick. Would be a magic-based show primarily focused around those three. I would say.
Who would you want it to be? Morgana or Clarion?
I guess that becomes a challenge, right? I don't know who you would get for,
Or even Spectre. I think could be really interesting because Spectre and Fate are always clashing because they both have their own idea of the fate of the universe.
Yeah, and what justice means.
Yeah,
sort of thing. Yeah, I think I think I don't know if there was one villain I would want to see being like the main antagonist, but those are good examples. I think Clarion, Morgan Le Fay, Spectre. You know, again, kind of a is he a villain, is he not sort of thing would be really interesting. You know, and there's other characters that we don't really see. You know, Captain Marvel could fit into there very easily. Phantom Stranger.
Dead Man.
Yeah, okay.
Love a good Boston Brand.
I love Dead Man. I know he gets an episode in JLU. There was also a time.
Oh, does he? Okay, good. Because he has 2 or 3 episodes in Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
And those are some of my favorite episodes.
He's super interesting. He got a comic in the Gotham Adventure. So the comic series that was running concurrent to the new Batman Adventures. He got one that kind of went into his whole backstory.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. But yeah, he would be a really good person to throw in there too. I think he's super interesting and again, not super well explored. But yeah, that general magical realm of characters would be my choice.
I like that. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like you said, Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
And I know he wouldn't fit at all, but I don't think he could carry a series. I will say that. I don't know how, but he could. But I would want Buona Beast to be what Aquaman. I mean, I guess I just want the Buona Beast from Brave and the Bold to interact with Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
Where Etrigan and Damian Blood, that's his real name.
Jason
right?
Blood.
Jason Blood, thank you.
Yeah.
Where Jason Blood is just like he just like puts up with it, and Zatanna is just like, yeah, come on, guy, let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
But everyone else in the story is like, why is he here? Like, what does he contribute?
Yeah, I mean, Buona Beast gets much more to do in Brave and the Bold than he really does in
He's so much fun.
DCU. That whole show is super fun.
Yeah.
I love it. But did you figure out who you want your villain to be of your Flash show?
Just Mark Hamill.
Just
the character actor Mark Hamill.
You're just thinking of that Trickster episode.
I am.
Yeah, it's one of the best episodes.
It is.
It's a really good moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there can be an overarching villain. I think if they do a Flash in the style of Brave and the Bold, where there's no real main villain.
Yeah.
But it's just Flash kind of doing his thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was BTOS too, right? I mean, the Joker is the most popular of all the villains and the most iconic, but the whole show was just built around a huge rogues gallery.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like the Flash's rogues gallery might work a little bit better in animation than it did, say, you know, in a more grounded version on the CW. So, Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, and
Get
I'm
some
trying to
Captain
think of,
Cold, some
Yeah.
Heat Wave, Mirror Master.
Music Maestro.
Yeah, whatever
Music
version.
Master.
Yeah, whichever version.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of them. They all have almost the exact same name. So
Uh,
let's just have all the villains played by either Neil Patrick Harris or Mark Hamill,
Yeah,
and then one episode where they're playing each other.
of course.
Yes, yes.
Because isn't there is it Brave and the Bold where Joker kidnaps Mark Hamill?
Justice League Action.
That's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah, which I have not seen a lot of. I've seen that segment though, which is pretty funny.
Because it's Joker and Trickster teaming up and then kidnap Mark Hamill.
He plays all of the other characters.
Yeah.
In the episode, basically, it's fantastic.
So such a good concept.
What a gift of the world, Mark Hamill.
And then I'm trying to think if I would pick like who from JLU I would pick. Because obviously Green Lantern and Flash are from the original core.
Mm-hmm.
My first thought is Vixen, but we also got an animated Vixen series.
Vixen. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to hear people's thoughts on this. You know, what character would you like to see get a little more screen time, get their own full series, or even like a little mini series maybe?
Yeah, we'll say because Vixen was 8-10-minute shorts.
Yeah,
We'll say a little bit more than that. We'll give you the 10 episode run.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, a first season of an animated show.
Yeah.
10 to 13 episodes. Yeah, nice and tight.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then based off your pitch, we'll determine if you get a season 2.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll think about it.
Yeah.
We've got notes. So, but yeah, would love to hear people's answers to that. And so along those lines, we have some notes from friends this week.
We do.
Yeah. So the aforementioned Jake, aka the Overvoid, wrote in with his suggestions for DC theme park rides.
Oh, good.
He would like to see. So he suggested Metropolis Land with a roller coaster that replicates a POV of Superman flying through the city. Like it weaves in between building structures and stuff like that. Maybe goes up into space or something. That would be, I think, a really cool, fun ride.
Yeah. So at Shanghai Disney and soon to be at Walt Disney World, we're getting the Tron coaster.
Wait, they're putting it at Disney World?
They are. It's opening next year. It's like almost done.
Oh my good God.
Yeah. And so if people have never seen it, it is a roller coaster where you were riding on a Tron cycle. So you were mounted like you're on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So you were facing, like you're laying on your stomach facing forward.
Yeah.
And so I think if you did a Superman ride like that, you do have to be in the Superman position somehow.
Exactly. One arm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be a fun one. His other suggestion was kind of something like Savi's Workshop, but for OA, where you go through and you make, or like a Build-A-Bear situation, but you go through and make your own rings and you make your own lanterns. And you could choose from any core you wanted.
I am shivering. Absolutely, I would love something like that.
Cameron, you're going to go immediately start saving money to start investing so you can build your own Green Lantern custom workshop, aren't you?
Absolutely. Oh, man, if I get my own Blue Lantern.
Yeah. It would be super cool, kind of like even when building the droids, building a lightsaber, you can have like just slight little customizations on it here and there, like the classic looking lantern or like a more organic looking one, kind of like they did in the movie sort of thing. Little variations on the style of the ring.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool.
The suit.
Yeah. Oh, and Cameron, you know what you would have to do, right? Kind of in the same way they have the lighting ceremony at the end after you build your lightsaber.
You have to say the oath.
You have to say your oath.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fearful day and raging night, which
No,
I heard
no.
full souls now, and all is lost the more of light. Look to the stars for hope and bright. Of course.
Cameron, I've told you so many times, if you're going to do it, if you're going to make people listen to the oath, actually say the oath. Don't rush through it like you're embarrassed to say it.
I'm not embarrassed to say it.
Aren't you though?
A little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a tiny little bit. It's fine. I have no room to judge. At one point in my life, I could read Kryptonian.
Hey, I can still speak Navian.
You win?
We've been over this.
Is it a win? I don't know.
I must have shared that Disney World story on the podcast.
Yes, you have.
Okay.
You absolutely have. So, and then I think you said you had a note that I missed.
I did.
Right? Yeah.
I did, and it's very fitting that I share this note.
Oh no. What did I do?
Let me pull it up here. On Facebook, we got a message from Bernie Gonzalez, who's messaged us a few times.
Okay.
He's a comic artist.
Did I forget to respond?
You've responded once of 3.
Bernie, I'm sorry.
But he has an amazing comic series, and I don't know if he has shared it online at all, but he sent us the first 2 issues of a comic called Midnight Mystery.
Okay, I'm
And the
bringing it
artwork
up here.
Yeah, the artwork is beautiful.
Let me take a look at this.
It's very kind of, it's almost like a colored version of Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he says he's very inspired by Tim Cook, and all of the BTOS animators and
Yeah.
BTOS animation.
Oh yeah, I can see. Yeah, this has a very Darwin Cook vibe to it, but it's like even just the opening cover looks like a kind of Jack the Ripper sort of guy, all in red with the swirling, almost Vertigo-esque pattern. This is Bernie. This is gorgeous. My apologies if I haven't like given you like
Also,
fair
I
commentary.
I
on
now
this.
just realized that he has forgot a comma, and it's Tim, comma Cook. Not Tim
He's
Cook.
very inspired by the CEO of Apple Computers, Tim Cook.
Yes, I apologize for that. Bruce Timm and Darwin Cook. Yes.
Yes. But no, I mean, like Bernie, seriously, this is absolutely gorgeous. And my apologies for forgetting to respond. I often forget to check Facebook.
But the message he sent, which goes along with these two comics, which again, I hope you can find them on. I hope, Bernie, you've posted them at some point.
Yeah.
His message is, hey, Chris and Cameron, my name is Bernie. I'm a big fan of the show. Thank you for keeping me sane with new episodes during this Groundhog Day existence. And while I appreciate all the editing you do and put in, Chris, let Cameron rant about anime every now and then.
God damn it.
Hashtag free Cameron.
Look,
My voice will be heard, Chris.
I let you talk about anime a lot last week.
Did you?
Well, you were mostly talking about how they're often shirtless, and so I let
Oh, that's true.
let you go. I went along with it.
Yes.
I keep in way more than it makes it seem because I'm constantly threatening to cut stuff out. So
Yeah. I also don't listen to the episodes, so I don't know how much you do cut out.
exactly, which is problematic when you did start listening for a little while and you show up like, oh my God, you cut out this thing. Like, fuck, he knows.
Now I know.
I'm supposed to not be accountable, Cameron.
You're right.
Yes.
But yes, thank you, Bernie, for sending in that message.
No, thank you, Bernie. Yeah, and no, thanks for sending these two. I promise here that by the time we record our next episode, I will have read through these because I'm absolutely blown away by this artwork. It is like I could have sworn I was looking at a Darwin Cook comic. Mm-hmm. It's incredible.
And it looks like he has this is a link tree. If you go to his Twitter, which is at Midnight Mystery Comic, or at I Want Mystery, he has a link to his comics on there.
Okay, great. Then I'll throw that in the plugs as well and give him a proper shout.
Yeah.
On Twitter, because these are really, really beautiful. So well done, Bernie, and my apologies for not being as responsive as I could have been. But if like Bernie, you want to write it in and say hello and support the Free Cameron movement.
Hashtag Free Cameron.
Hashtag Free Cameron movement. Or if you have suggestions for which characters you would love to see get their own proper story treatment, their own series, you can find us at Timm Talk Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail.
Yes.
I would recommend of those two, Instagram and Twitter is the more likely place that you'll get a response from me because I am often distracted and a terrible person.
Yes, well, we both are.
Yeah, you don't even bother.
I don't.
So you basically just have washed your hands of the responsibility entirely.
You do such a good job with it.
But
why would I mess that up?
So things slip through the cracks still. But that is where you can find us. And as I mentioned before, you can also find all of our episodes up on YouTube as part of the new Pod Tower channel that we're doing in collaboration with the Watchtower Database and DCAU Review. So you can see the newest episode of the DCAU Review. It's a podcast like us that's put up on YouTube. They're covering the Batman Beyond episode, The Last Resort, which you may recall was the one where Terry's friend Chelsea is put into that like correctional...
That's right.
facility sort of thing. Pretty intense episode. So they're covering that. And then the Watchtower Database recently put out a video, which is fantastic. And it's Maddie's girlfriend tries to guess the Justice League's powers.
It's good.
It's really good. It's really fun. So check those out there.
There was a horrible, hilarious game show I saw on TikTok last night. And again, cut this out if it's too long. Where it was a football analyst having you guess, is this a basketball analyst, having you guess, is this a basketball player or someone that signed the Declaration of Independence?
It's pretty good.
It's a very fun game.
It's pretty good. It's kind of like my favorite game. Is it Bob Dylan or a kazoo?
It's good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
But yeah, and then you can find me at Lordifer on Twitter and Instagram.
Amazing. If you want to see my art, you can find that at Cameron.Dexter. If you want to see my face, you can find that at CamDexter_adventures.
Boom, boom, boom. All right. Well, that does it for us this week. We're back next week with an episode I am super excited about, Hereafter. Now, Cameron, do you know anything about this episode?
Not from the title.
Then don't look up anything.
Okay.
I genuinely mean this. I'm very excited to hear your reaction to this, not having known anything about it or seen anything about it.
Okay.
But I really, really love these 2-part episodes about ready to come up. So
okay,
yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So
I will have no one spoil it for me.
Yes, you mean me? I won't spoil it for you.
Just you.
The only real threat to being spoiled in all of this. But yeah, super, super excited for that. Next week, as we're kind of winding down our season of Justice League here, we're approaching the final stretch pretty soon.
I know,
So
it's sad. I mean, I'm excited for JLU, obviously, because that's what I have minimal memories of.
Yes, exactly. You remember that stuff far more than you do this, most of which you haven't seen.
Right.
So, no, very excited for that. But until then, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Ba, 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 ba.
Bye-bye.